Have you ever wanted to run a spacefaring adventure? Have you ever wanted to play Pathfinder in space? Well, too bad, because Starfinder is not Pathfinder in space. We'll tell you all about it coming up. Hello, Game Masters, and welcome to Second Rate DMs. My name is Scott, and today we're going to talk about Starfinder. We're a little bit behind on this review, but you know what? It's about time that they get what they deserve over at Paizo. If you've never been here before, here at Second Rate DMs, we talk about GM tips, reviews, news, and all kinds of things in the tabletop role-playing game area. Now, with that being said, Paizo has been extremely generous to us over here at the channel. They've given us some books that we were able to give away a couple months ago, some other products and those kinds of things. But with that being said, like any other time, it's gonna be an honest review as possible. So what is Starfinder, okay? So Starfinder is not Pathfinder in space. I know a lot of people seem to get that impression that, you know, it's all the same things from Pathfinder, but it's in space. That's not necessarily true. Yes, it is a Paizo product. Yes, it is loosely based on, you know, Pathfinder. It's based on the world Golarion, just way in the future. And the premise is that something happened, we don't know yet, maybe in the adventure path they'll reveal it to us, but something happened where everyone forgets who they are, where they came from, what happened, and they basically made this clean slate that they could start Starfinder from. Now in my home games, I skewed that a little bit, of course. It's still way in the future, but that's another story. But the system is, again, based on that 3.5 Dungeons & Dragons, that Pathfinder, but there is a little bit of difference. And one of the things that I really enjoy with it being the biggest difference is the way that hit points work out. Now I know some folks have an issue with this, but I find it to be that nice middle ground between too much crunch and, you know, some realism that's there. So the way that works, you have a stamina pool, a hit point pool, and a resolve pool. And they all kind of stack like this. So think of your stamina almost like temporary hit points or damage reduction. That's what you're going to go through first before you get to those hit points. Your hit points is your real health, the real thing that's keeping you alive. Once you get to 0 hit points, then you begin to die and go through that. Your resolve points you get to use for a myriad of abilities throughout the different classes, spells, abilities, those kinds of things, but you can also use them to restore your stamina and your hit points if you're dying. So it is this nice clean piece that does come together. It is one of the major differences between Starfinder and Pathfinder, that and a second armor class called, so you have your kinetic armor class and your energy armor class. Basically, they got rid of, well, no, spell resistance is still there, but your energy armor class is for things like fire, ice, water, you know, basically getting shot with lasers and stuff. And so that's what keeps you protected from that. So most of your armor will have a KEC and an AEC. So don't get confused when you're looking at the book and you see those numbers. What they've done basically is it looks like they've taken Pathfinder where they wanted to go and they created Starfinder. So like in your character creation, you start with your theme, and then your class, and then your theme, your race, and then your class, of course, right? You have to have a race. And in Starfinder, there's a myriad of different alien races that are in the core rulebook, as well as, you know, the alien archives and some other material that they've put out there. It's nothing too different, right? So you get like a stat bonus, and a couple skill bonuses from your race. You also get your hit points from your race, which I think makes a lot of sense as well. But then you also get a little bit from your theme, which is basically like you know, an ace pilot or an engineer, something like that, something that you can put on top of your class. So like what are they, backgrounds in 5th edition. It's pretty much kind of like that. But then they also have another layer called Archetypes. Now, Pathfinder brought in Archetypes eventually, but here they're baked in at the beginning. In the core rulebook, there is only 2. However, throughout the Pact Worlds has some more in there, and I imagine with more releases as time goes on, there will be more archetypes that Starfinder can build up upon. And what an archetype is it's almost like a prestige class, right? You give up some of your core base abilities for some extra abilities, so you can be really focused in onto something hardcore. But this is just the building portion of it. What really makes Starfinder unique is its incredible lore of the Pact Worlds and the solar system and the stars. And what do you need to get through those stars, may I ask? You need a starship. And this game has starships. This game has ways for you to build your own starships using build points that you get, throughout as you level. Obviously, as the GM, I recommend that you kind of lock them, but lock them behind story elements and things so they're not just necessarily automatic. Maybe you run a quest for somebody, you do a smuggling run and you come back and hey, now you can upgrade your engines or something. But every piece of it is broke down from your engines, your power core, your weaponry, the speed of your ship, the movement of your ship. Your own ship even has its own character sheet. So even if you're, everything is just broken down into this beautiful Starship Combat. It's almost like it's like a mini game inside of the game, but it's a part of the game, right? So if you've ever played like a Final Fantasy series or some other games, The Witcher, where there's that mini game that's kind of core integrated into the game and it's important, but it is a side game and it works completely different. That's kind of how the Starship Combat works. It works completely different. It works on a hex-based tile that has its own movement and its own rules and its own initiative combat, and it's just different out there. And if you guys want to learn how to play Starfinder, how to run Starfinder, go check out Taking 20. He's got some fantastic videos step by step by step, and that's how I learned how to play Starfinder. I watched all of his videos on how to play it, how to do ship combat. He did a great job, and I think that's really, at least for me, that's how I really looked up to him. I looked up to his channel, and it was really fantastic. So one of the things that we like to talk about here is the actual product itself, right? So this is the core rulebook. We got some shine on here. It looks just like anything you expect from Paizo. It's solid, it's sturdy, it smells great, and it's got some fantastic art in here. It is a beautiful, well done product. The tables are all put together very nice and neat. It's easy to flip through. There's even I really like this. I hope more games do this. There's a whole bookmark section right here on the side that tells you exactly what you're looking for, so you don't have to flip back to the front to see what you want to go to. So if I want to go to the setting, for example, I can see down here where it's out in the tabbed, and even here on the side you can see that it's kind of tabbed out through different colors. I like that as a game master. Anything that makes it easier for me to cruise through this book is thumbs up, right? Absolute thumbs up. So the book is good. It's solid. It's firm. The only thing that I have complaints about this book is that this is the core rule book, which MSRP is for $60. You probably find about $50 now. I haven't seen it any cheaper than $50. But this has everything you need to play and run the game, with the exception of any monsters. So all the game master rules are in here, all your hazards, all your traps, but there's no monsters in here. There's only one. It's like a level 20 goblin, space goblin dude, and he's in here, but you don't have anything else to go off of. Now, one of the things that I do also really like about Starfinder is that in the back, there's this thing called the Legacy Pathfinder. And what it allows you to do is, one, there's all your classic races in there in space, which is pretty wicked, right? So you can have like space gnomes and space dwarves and elves and all that kind of thing. So those are there on top of all of your alien races at the beginning of the book. But then you also have a conversion chart. So all of those, not chart, but a conversion process that you can use. So all of those Pathfinder products that you may already own, you can just go through the process step by step and convert those monsters anyway. Give them those KECs, give them the staminas, give them what they need to get over to this side, to get into Starfinder. Now, they did also release what's called the Alien Archive. Now, the Alien Archive is essentially your monster manual for Starfinder. I highly, 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 highly recommend picking it up. If you're gonna get Starfinder, at the very least, buy the Alien Archive. And the reason I say that is because, one, not only is it full of like all these amazing monsters and all of this really cool art, but there's also a lot of optional races in there for your players. So a lot of these will have racial traits that you can go ahead and allow your players, if you want, to play an additional alien race outside of that. One of my favorite ones in here, just kind of flipping through, is the Drow, if I can use the alphabet. Just because the Drow are pretty iconic. And they look pretty sweet as their space versions. But here over here, you can play a space drow, okay? And that's pretty freaking wicked, all right? Space drow, awesome. I actually got introduced to this game about 2 years ago. I had never heard of it before, and I saw this Kickstarter for all these miniatures for this game called Starfinder. And I do a lot of Kickstarter, and I didn't buy into it, but what I saw was a miniature of this, a dragon with a freaking laser cannon on its back. And if anything says anything about cool, it's a freaking dragon with a freaking laser beam on its back. And that is why I decided to get interested in Starfinder. That hooked me right there. I was all on it. So with that, I bought the cool rule book. I've got the GM screen over here and some other stuff. But they also have, another product which I'm really fond of called Pact Worlds. And this really breaks down their world. This is more of a setting book. In the setting book, there is some more archetypes, though, which is always nice to have. But if you really want to get into the depths of, the world that they've created, the story that they've created with, these Pact Worlds, and even the solar system, I mean, they've got the whole thing mapped out for you, all right? So it's all right here, beautifully well done. Unfortunately, there are no miniatures for the game. They do seem to sell, well, they have some, but they're really expensive, to be honest with you, and you don't get a whole lot for what you pay for. But they do have some great tokens, if you're into that. This is the one from the Cool Rulebook, which is pretty funny considering there's actually no monsters in the Cool Rulebook, but, hey, whatever. But there are some ships and some guys in here. Again, a slight complaint is you pay for this, and this one goes for $25, but then it doesn't have any stands. So you don't, you have to figure it out on your own. Either you gotta buy some stands, which they sell extra, of course, which is, but I guess it's, you gotta make money, right? So you get to buy some stands that go for this, or you can, maybe you've got some laying around for some other games. I've also seen some hacks if you go to Reddit, stuff like paper clips like the black ones and using those to stand up your stuff. But either way, the tokens themselves are very pretty. They work well, they do the job. I would rather have some miniatures, but we don't have them, so we're gonna go with what we got, right? So Starfinder, okay? What can I say? What can I say about Starfinder? Give it a chance. It is a really cool game if you like sci-fi fantasy. And that's exactly what it is. It is the best parts of sci-fi and the best parts of fantasy. And if you're creative enough, it can also be the best part of horror. Running games like Dead Space or Event Horizon, or having those action scenes, flying around on spaceships, like from Star Wars, and doing different combats, in and out of space, in and out of the ship. You can do some incredibly amazing things with this game. Essentially, if you look at Pathfinder and other, fantasy role-playing games, we've had this genre for a while where we're just kind of, this is what we have, this is what's acceptable. And Starfinder just really broadens that. So you can still have your types of adventures that involve going to a dungeon and, smashing through some stuff, killing a monster at the end and getting loot. The only difference is maybe this dungeon is on a meteor. Maybe it's this lost prophecy from, the Solarian temples. And so you're going, you're searching through space, and you get this ping, and you go there, and you get down into the dungeon just like any other RPG game out there that you're familiar with. The only difference is you flew there on a spaceship that you and your team got to create, and you'll fly out of there on a spaceship, which is really cool, because then you have all of the things that can happen, space warp time or enemy ships. One of the things that I thought was really, really cool is that everybody, the way that the space combat is broken down, I'm not going to get too deep into it, but it's in different phases, and everybody on that ship has a job of some sort. They contribute to the overall combat of the ship, its overall health. So maybe your science officer will do a scan on the other ship, which will give you an attack increase, or maybe a decrease, or you can target certain systems. And your captain's just sitting there on his chair like, do a better job, and everybody gets a bonus. Or telling the other guys on the, via the, communicator, like an old Star Trek where Kirk would be like, oh, you're a piece of crap. Same thing, like, you will be destroyed. And so they get a negative. That's really cool. The captain, your charisma character, gets to sit there and do those kinds of things and, help the ship while the engineers are doing stuff. and your science team is doing stuff. Your engineers can, reroute power and increase damage or increase your shields. And it's a very simple system. It's not even that hard. It sounds like there's a lot going on, but it's really not. Honestly, the best thing that I would suggest is to print off a sheet, and it will only be one sheet, for all the actions that are available to the different people that choose to do those roles. So if you have a party and you have one guy that says, I want to be the captain, well, you give him a sheet that's got the captain roles on it. Same thing with the engineer and the science officer and your gunners. And you just go with it like that, and you'll have a really awesome time. I love Starfinder. I love this product. It's got some nicks, but it's still a really great game. It's an amazing game, actually. There's some things that I wish they had done as far, like I said, the core rule book had included some monsters, so you could at least play it with just the one book. But, hey, not everybody's perfect. The one good thing is that Starfinder's still going. They're still putting out products. Actually, we should be getting some here shortly, some more adventure paths that we can talk to you guys about. And hopefully, we actually missed the Armory book that came out last year. So it's an arms and equipment guide. But I've heard some really good things about that. And I want to say they have another book coming up shortly. And as soon as we get that, we'll review that for you too. All right, guys, that is my short synopsis of Starfinder, why you should pick it up, why you should give it a chance. And of course, if you guys like these kind of reviews, come on back. We put these out every week. Hit that like and that subscribe button. And as always, we'll see you guys later. Have a good week.